Hello YouTube, it is Kingsford back with another mixing tutorial. Today I'm going to talk about compression, the different types of compressors, which compressor to use on which instrument. So let's get into it. So before we get into working with the Logic stock compressors and a few other free compressors that you can download, I just want to talk about the different kinds of compressors that you're going to find in your DAW. The first one is just a digital compressor. Every DAW has a different kind, super basic compressor. The next one you'll see is a VCA compressor, which is based on outboard hardware. VCA stands for voltage controlled amplifier. You don't really need to worry about what that is, but it basically is how that outboard compression gear works. And what you're going to find in your DAW is an emulated version of that. The next one you'll see is the FET compressor. FET stands for Field Effect Transmitter. Again, don't worry about it too much. The next compressor you'll see is an Opto compressor. Opto stands for optical. This compressor uses light to compress the signal as the light turns on. Again, this is just the type of compression used in these outboard models, and what you're finding in your DAW is an emulated version of that. The next one that you'll see, Logic doesn't have this in its stock compressors, but it is a variable mu compressor. This is a tube compressor. And then the last one I'll talk about is the multiband compressor. I'm just going to show you the Logic's version of that, as well as another digital version of that multiband compression that you can download for free. Okay, so I started making a beat here. I have a drum loop, I've got some chords on an electric piano, I've got a vocal sample, and I've got an 808 bass. We're gonna pull up a Logic stock compressor, and this is one of my favorite Logic stock plugins because it's so versatile. Just with this one plugin, you get 7 different compressors. You've got this Platinum Digital, a Studio VCA, Studio FET, Classic VCA, Vintage VCA, Vintage FET, and this Vintage Opto, which I love. Starting with this Platinum Digital. This digital compressor is a very transparent compressor. You're not going to get a lot of warmth or color or unique character with this. It's gonna give you a very clean tone, which can be super useful when you're doing basic compression. I definitely recommend any beginner mixer to use. It's not gonna alter your sound too much, and you get to figure out how these parameters work when you're compressing. I'm going to put it on this drum bus, and I'll play it for you clean without the compressor. Now we're going to put this compressor on and we're going to see how it works. What it's doing here is compressing this signal every time it goes above this threshold, which I have set at -20 dB, and every time it goes above it, it is compressing it with a ratio of 2:1. The attack and release parameters give it either a softer attack or a faster attack, and a faster release or slower release after the signal has been compressed. And this knee knob, you can see it moving when you go over to this graph function. It's adjusting how hard of a compression you get after the signal goes above the threshold. Okay, let's move on to a VCA compressor. So the next one is the Studio VCA. I really like using VCA compressors on drums because they have a really fast response time and they're really nice for rhythmic and peaky signals. I'll put it on my drum buses normally. These don't add too much warmth to your signal, but I would recommend using this on your drums. Let's listen to this classic VCA. So the difference between this classic VCA and the Studio VCA is the classic VCA doesn't even have the attack and release parameters. it has an auto attack and release, which is fairly quick. It's kind of automatic with the signal. This is one that I actually use a lot on drum buses. And then sometimes I'll put this distortion up to either soft or hard. That adds a little bit of color to it, kind of a little bit of saturation to the signal. I haven't talked about this makeup gain yet. What the makeup gain does is basically boost the signal after the compression. And sometimes you need a little bit of makeup gain. I always put this auto gain on off, but I never want to push it too far. I usually keep it around 0 or 1 dB. One other thing you can do with this compressor is put a limiter on it. You can set it to maybe -6 dB. And you'll see this red light turn on once it goes above that threshold and compress it down. You want to be careful with this as not to distort your signal too much. Maybe just put it slightly on. Alright, now let's look at this vintage VCA. This is a nice one. You got the knee and you've got the attack and release. Let's hear this one. So I'm liking the sound of either this vintage VCA or this classic VCA. I think I'm going to stick with this classic VCA for now. I'm going to keep this distortion on soft. Next, we're going to go into this keyboard chords I have. And I'm going to use this Studio FET on here. The FET compressors are really nice for adding warmth and color, which you don't get so much with the VCAs and the digital compressors. They have a relatively fast attack, but not quite as fast as the VCAs. I like using them on vocals, keyboards, and guitars, or even basses. These are really versatile compressors. You can try them on a lot of different things. You can use it for parallel compression to blend in a compressed signal with a uncompressed signal. Let's listen to this keyboard without any compression. Now let's put the compressor on. I'm going to put the attack a little bit slower. So you can hear that this is a nice warm tone that it adds. We'll look at this vintage FET next. The one difference I'm seeing between these two is this Studio FET has no knee, where this vintage FET does have a knee. And we're probably just going to get a slightly different tone. I think I prefer this Studio FET. So the last compressor we're going to look at is this vintage Opto, and I'm going to put it on this vocal sample that I have. Opto Compression is awesome for adding color, warmth, texture. The slowest attack out of any of these compressors, so this would not be very good on rhythmic signals such as drums. So without compression. So now we're going to put the compressor on. I'm going to go a little harder on this distortion because I really want a lot of color and extra saturation. So this is just kind of adding a little bit more body to your track. So we've gone through all of these Logic stock compression. The next compressor I want to talk about is one that Logic doesn't have in its stock plugins, but it's one that I do like to use usually for my master bus or for just adding a little bit more warmth and color or fatness to a signal. So I might put this on a base or a master bus. It's very good for gluing signals together and mixed buses as well. So actually we'll put it on this base. It's an 808. Here's it clean. So this is a variable mu compressor. What I have here is, it's a free download. Just Google this, MJUC Junior. It's free, might as well get it. And parameters are super easy and simple to use. All it has is this compression knob, which is basically a threshold, and then it has a makeup gain. And then it has, this is basically an attack knob, fast, slow, auto. We're gonna put it on slow. Now we see the compressor. I'm gonna add a little bit of makeup gain. And there's one more kind of compression I want to talk about, that is multiband compression. So Logic does have a stock multiband compressor. We're going to put this on my master bus in here called Multipressor. To be honest, I don't love this compressor. It's not that intuitive, but I'll kind of walk you through it. This compression is split into 4 different signals. This is the low frequencies, the low mids, upper mids, and highs. So you can just grab this, and this is just a gain. You can raise or lower it for each frequency band. And then you can go in and set the compression. It has a attack, release, threshold, ratio, all of the same things. The cool thing about this one is you can solo the frequency bands. To really feel how the compression is working on that specific band. Another multi-brand compressor you can get for free, this is a download, I actually use this one a little bit more, is this TDR Nova, and it's basically the same thing as 4 bands, and this, it looks more like an EQ, which I find to be more intuitive. So you've got your EQ spectrum. So I frequently will use one of these top bands to kind of DS my signal, so none of those high frequencies sound too harsh. And then I'll also compress some of these lower mids so it doesn't get too muddy. Usually around 500, maybe a little above. This Q factor can adjust the node width. And this is a very visual compressor, which I love. And you can see you can adjust the attack and release times right here. Super versatile. I would use this on lots of different things. I'll frequently put this on my drum bus. I'll put it on my master bus as well. You can put on vocals for sure. Use it as a de-esser. I hope you guys learned something from this video about compression. Choosing the right compressor is really half the battle, and then knowing exactly what your compressor is doing to your signal, what the attack is, what the release is, what the threshold is, what your ratio is. You're taking a huge step up in your mixing game. Compression is a great tool to mix signals together and keep everything at a nice level while adding warmth and color and character to your tracks. You don't need expensive equipment and plugins to get a great mix. There are some super great third-party plugins you can buy. Once you've established knowledge for these free plugins, then you can go experiment with some of those paid plugins that give you a little bit more attention to detail or a little more unique sound and color and character. Hope you guys enjoyed the video today. Hope you learned something. If you want to learn more about mixing, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, click the bell, give the video a like, and let me know in the comments what you want to learn about next. Catch you in the next video.
Peace.